In some Asian families, having a daughter could quietly disappoint people. A woman in China once said her grandmother refused to visit the hospital after she was born because she wasn't a boy. And before you think, okay, that's just sexism, wait, because the real reason goes much deeper. People assume families preferred sons because they loved boys more, but historically, that wasn't even the main reason. For centuries, having no son could mean no retirement, no protection, no future. Suddenly, it stops sounding like preference and starts sounding like fear. Across parts of Asia, China, Korea, India, Vietnam, families survived differently than modern Americans do. There was no social security, no nursing homes. Children were the retirement plan, and traditionally, sons stayed, daughters left after marriage. Parents could spend decades raising a daughter who culturally belonged to another family later. But sons, they inherited land, carried the family name, took care of aging parents, handled rituals after death. So over time, families developed one terrifying belief: no son equals no future. And here's the unexpected part. Women often enforced this system too. Mothers, grandmothers, mother-in-laws, not because they hated girls, but because they understood the pressure better than anyone. A woman without a son could lose status inside her own home, so the cycle continued, not through hatred, through survival anxiety. Then technology changed everything. In the 1980s and 90s, families could learn a baby's gender before birth, and suddenly, some countries developed massive gender imbalances, millions more boys than girls. Governments panicked, but inside families, the pressure still felt normal. Tiny comments, tiny reactions. You need one son. Who will carry the family name? And those sentences sound small until people hear them for generations. But then modern Asia changed fast. Daughters started earning more, supporting parents more, staying emotionally closer, and slowly, the old logic began collapsing because people realized something uncomfortable. The son preference was never really about loving boys more. It was about fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of aging alone, fear of disappearing. But culture doesn't disappear just because reality changes, which is why younger Asians today often say, "My parents aren't sexist," and many truly aren't. But then a baby is born, and somehow the reaction still feels slightly different. Not openly, not aggressively, just enough to notice. That's how old beliefs survive, quietly. Now you'd expect this mentality to disappear in America. New country, new values, right? Actually, sometimes it became stronger. Some immigrant Asian families held on to son preference even more intensely after leaving Asia, because immigrants often freeze culture in time, so beliefs already fading in modern Seoul or Shanghai still survive inside homes in Los Angeles or New York. And suddenly, this stops being a story about Asia. It becomes a story about inherited fear. And ironically, many parents who desperately wanted sons ended up relying most on their daughters later in life. The daughters called more, visited more, stayed longer, and slowly, families began realizing maybe the thing protecting them was never the family name, it was the relationship. And sometimes, traditions survive long after the fear that created them is gone.